Welcome to Making Games. I'm Gelb, and today I have the pleasure of chatting with Victor Shiu. Victor is the director of games at LaunchBoom and has helped hundreds of creators, including me, raise over 150 million on Kickstarter and other crowdfunding platforms. He's about to be a father of two. Preemptive congratulations. And also is in the process of creating and launching his own board game, Hover, which is a brutal game of hummingbirds, which I'm very interested in digging into. Thanks so much, Victor, for taking some time to chat with me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So, lot in there, but
Yeah.
I'd love to dig into your, I don't know, in terms of a starting point. What's your background? Like, how did you get to this place? Because I'm thinking, like, is it a games background? Is it a crowdfunding background? Is it business background? Like, how are you who you are?
It is a video background, actually. I wanted to make movies, films, go Hollywood, or actually, I didn't like Hollywood. I didn't like LA. I don't know. I wanted to make films of some sort. That's what I studied in college. And then coming out, I was like, okay, now I need to make money. I need to make a living off of this. And so I started doing a whole bunch of hodgepodge video projects, and eventually, teamed up with some friends from college and started like a digital marketing creative agency. And within that, we had a friend come up going like, "Hey, I got this Kickstarter project I want to do. Do you guys help with that?" And we're like, "Yeah, sure, why not?"
Of course, the answer is always yes.
Yeah, let's do it. Like we're fresh out of college, we kind of need the cash. And we got a lot of time on our hands and a lot of passion and energy. So Kickstarter had just started to take off at that time. It's about like 2012, 2013-ish. So it was just starting to like really get a lot of cool big campaigns. And so we looked at all of those. I dived into it. I kind of watched all the videos, looked at all the campaign pages, and we're like, okay, this is kind of the structure that they're going, and it kind of compared it to the storytelling structure that I saw worked well with like films, with movies in general. Just that narrative arc. We're like, hey, it could kind of align really well. So we kind of created our own little structure for that. And I was like, okay, let's build the video off of that. We learned a lot in that process, and then essentially launched the our first Kickstarter campaign, and it raised like $70,000 without too much marketing, to be honest. And we got pretty hooked from there. A few years later, we decided to completely pivot ourselves to focus purely on crowdfunding. And then it just kind of went off from there.
No offense intended at all. How can you possibly find crowdfunding addictive? As someone who craps bricks thinking about it. I don't see how people can enjoy it. So like what about it is appealing to you?
Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna rewind back to that moment when we were deciding what should we do with this business that we've created, that we do. Like we've been doing YouTube videos, websites, like random like hype video, like just a bunch of random stuff. And we reflected, we're like, okay, we think we need to focus. If we don't focus, this business isn't gonna survive. We're just a bunch of contractors doing a bunch of random jobs right now. What did we like the most? Who is our ideal clients? What was the project that we love working on the most? And we thought about it and we're like, well, we really liked collaborating. We liked having the video team with the web team, with like the marketing team, all working together and talking about, okay, what's this main goal and what's this unified marketing message that we can kind of pursue. And we're like, okay, where do we do that? The crowdfunding campaign. On top of that, we're like, well, we want to be data backed. Like, we don't just want to make a bunch of intuitive decisions and be like, cool, we believe in this. And we're like, we have no reason to believe that we're right. We want to make sure that every single thing that we're suggesting has data behind it. And we're like, where do we have that? It's like, well, crowdfunding has very clear data. Like, we know that we're getting this kind of return. We know that it's driven this much revenue. We know that it's like, yeah, it's working or it's not working. So we're like, okay, cool, that works really well. And then lastly, we're thinking about, okay, who are the people that we like working with the most? And we're like, well, we like other entrepreneurs like ourselves. We like people with the same level of passion, the people that like are bootstrapping it. and just really want to make something happen and are willing to get their feet, like get their hands dirty with us to make it really happen. And it was the Kickstarter peeps. It was the people that the creators there that just have this new product, this new idea. They want to make a reality, and we're gonna get in with them to make that a reality. And on top of that, to have the skin in the game. So at that time, we were thinking, we're like, we were taking a commission at that time. So it'd be nice that if they won, we also won, and if we won, they won. And so we wanted that as well. And all those things aligned. We're like, let's just focus on what we love doing, and that is crowdfunding. And so we went all in for that. Since then, we have taken away the commission model. We found that that was not necessarily helpful for the creator, because there's a lot of margin. Like we learned a lot about business and about margins and all this cost. But we still love doing crowdfunding. We still love seeing the passion in the creators. We still love working with creators like yourself, to make their dreams a reality, or at least, kind of do even a reality check with them to be like, hey, these are what the numbers are saying. I know it's not good news, but these are the options for you to move forward. And so that way we can protect your house. You don't need to go and, refinance that or something because you think you want to make this reality. We're like, hey, check on that. Don't do that because these are what the numbers are saying. That, and also the other side where we're like, hey, things are looking really, really good for you. And I think you can actually like do extremely well, like botany over here or kelp or something like that. And just, but we let the metrics decide that. And it's just really good to work with creators like yourself, who love what they're doing or like, are passionate about these projects, and help turn them into turn that into reality.
So I imagine it's very rewarding in some cases, but the flip side of about about working with creatives is working with creatives in terms
Mm.
of, and especially in entrepreneurs. And I imagine you have situations, maybe it's you screen this out in the process, but like it's hard to tell for a lot of folks, it's hard to call their baby ugly, and there it's very hard for them to hear that their baby might be a bit ugly, when it's also something that they've been working on for, like, years and years and years. Um, do you like, I know that LaunchBoom, like, you work with, there's LaunchBoom games, and there's also LaunchBoom for other types of Kickstarter campaigns. And I imagine it's a very different kind of, like, setup. How do you navigate that? Like, do you guys find that I mean, I'm sure it's not like you'll work with anyone because I know you guys have a pretty strict, not strict, but, like, pretty, like, clear sets of guidelines, but, like, what have you seen when interacting with, other game designers, for example, and how do you deal with that?
So first off, we do have pretty strict guidelines for who we let in, and it has to do. There's like an aspect of product market fits that we take a look at and we're like, does this have potential or not? Or like, this is kind of borderline, or like definitely not. This is something that probably isn't going to work well with crowdfunding, and in those situations, we would turn people away. When it comes down to borderline situations, we kind of assess it, and we wanna talk with you, be like, "Hey, like, what are your expectations? Are you able to, like, this is a little bit more borderline." Um, in terms of just, like, that process, like, the process of learning that has been a journey. Um, I will admit there was a time when we were accepting a lot of really random projects. We were like, "Let's just take this, we'll take everything," because, we need to survive as a business, and we were just learning along the way, to be honest. Um, we rely heavily on data. Like, we really look at the metrics. We do not assume that we know everything. A lot of times we assume that we don't know a lot. We let in more people mainly because we look at it and we're like, we have this thought about it. We don't know if that thought's accurate. Instead, we want to be able to test with metrics and see, okay, what is the actual market telling us back? Uh, and we are willing to have that conversation with you when that happens. And that's kind of the big thing here. Well, the thing that we learned is like we had products come in that we thought were like going to be winners and they were not winners. And we had the opposite. We had products come in, we're like, are we sure we want to sign that? And they come in and they crush. So in the end, it comes down to like we understand that we do not know a lot and we cannot predict the market. The best way to understand the market is to just test and see what the market responds with.
Build conviction through data. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. I totally get that. The How has that changed? So, you've been involved, you've been watching crowdfunding go from its infancy to, I don't know if we want to call it mainstream, but as close to mainstream as possible, and have wobbles, kind of in between. So like this is over 10 years. How has it changed? Like has your strategy in terms of the way that you look at ad metrics, the way that you think about things, has that changed quite a bit over the years, or has it been remarkably consistent?
And so we started in the design and tech side of things, so we didn't start in the game side. I think games had this beautiful lagging effect where games just kept doing well for honestly not too like not a lot of reasons. When you look at the marketing numbers and you're like, that's a crazy return. How does that happen? And it's just because I think there was a really passionate tabletop fan base. But because we started in design and tech stuff, we could start seeing things happening a lot sooner in terms of like the progression of the market becoming more mass market and less about, oh, this is cool, let's try this out. When we first started launching crowdfunding campaigns, you didn't need to do much marketing. Like you really didn't. You could have an email list, you could build that out, maybe run a few Facebook ads, and Facebook ads back then were so easy, so cheap. You just get all these leads and cool, they're just coming in. You're like, wow, dollar cost per lead. That's our benchmark, right? And you're like, nowadays, like, no, that's a really good cost per lead. Um, yeah, but back then it was so easy to do that, to just build a list, and for the most part, that list converted. Those emails, people were very trusting. The market, like people were fresh, they thought this was cool. I think people were just excited to back something new. Uh, as things got more saturated, as more people were launching on Kickstarter, and also as some campaigns like the Coolest Cooler kind of had some really major flops, there has been less there's been decreasing trust. And that plus more people using Facebook ads and the increase of that, like, and the market stabilizing there and getting to a place where it's no longer early adopters, but general markets has led to a place where it's not that easy anymore. And we saw that coming like pretty early, 2016, like 17-ish. Um, is that yeah, around that time, I would say maybe around that time, we started to see that starting to happen with our own campaigns where we would do the normal thing. We would collect the emails, we get that going, and we will launch and we're like, "Cool, we got 10,000 emails, we're good to go." And silence, nothing. And we're like, "We just wasted how much money for our clients?"
Exactly.
This is not good. So we had to pivot really hard and really fast because this was not gonna fly well for anyone. And we had to find ways to qualify the emails. We had to find different ways to look at the metrics, and we started thinking about marketing fundamentals. What is the actual return on this ad spend? What is our predicted, like, can we predict the conversion for this so then that way we can actually predict the return that we're going to get spending money on collecting emails right now? Because if we can't do that, we cannot confidently tell our clients to spend money on collecting emails because those emails can mean $0 or X amount of dollars. If it's zero, then it's zero. So that's when we introduced the reservation funnel. There's like a whole thing with that. Like I dive into the details of it, but we had to find a way to essentially qualify the emails and create predictive analytics for pre-launch. And we also had to dive a little bit deeper into just understanding, like just dive deeper into marketing fundamentals. What is the return on investment that you're getting for the spend that you're putting into this marketing?
And in the past few years, have you seen, like, has that still like, obviously everything's tightened in terms of, prices might be going up in terms of prices of ads, or like, more congestion there, but are there new tea leaves that you're reading? Are there trends that you're kind of spotting when you're thinking about how it might be different going forward, and you might need to be thinking about like new ways of getting those marketing fundamentals, like, or getting more proof points?
fundamentals are always fundamentals. So understand communicating value and like earning trust is kind of how I've broken it down in terms of what you need to do to just have good marketing. It's not about tactics or anything. It's really value and trust. But when it comes down to running the actual ads, that has changed a lot. So Facebook had, I mean, I think it was 2017 actually, that like that they had the whole Cambridge Analytica thing, and then that changed the way that tracking worked. And now, like with a lot of privacy stuff, you can't track as well. You can't just run ads now and be like, "I want this," and then it gets you that. Now it's just different. Tracking isn't as strong as it used to be, for good or for worse. Good for the privacy of many, and not so great if you're trying to do easy marketing. So we had to develop systems and programs, develop our own system of analytics to essentially counter that, and our own system of tracking as well. And then it kind of improved, and now we're entering a stage where, like, as we go into the game space is now feeling the hits, where you can't just launch a game and expect it to fun well, and so you kind of have to go into thinking about it as a business again. Um, and with that, we also have our favorite topic right now in April 2025, which are the tariffs and all the crazy stuff going on with our current administration. That's rocking the boat a lot. And so now we're diving into that. We're looking into the resources for, like, we are talking with logistics partners to try to educate both our clients and people outside, just the entire crowdfunding community, what we're seeing, what we think would be next, like how to kind of navigate these difficult waters, this environment that is both chaotic and you can't control. We encountered this when COVID hit, when we heard the news for COVID coming seeping through. We had a meeting. We're like, what's the worst case scenario here? We're like, worst case scenario, we have some martial order that shuts down everyone and keeps everyone quarantined in their homes for like a year. Um, and we're like, oh, that
It
happened.
almost
We're like,
happened.
if that happened, and we're like, what's the game plan if that
Yeah.
happens? And we wrote
Yeah.
that down, and then like 2 or 3 months later, it was like, boom, that happened. And we're like, well, I'm glad we prepared. So we're trying to do the same thing right now, which I mean, we could have prepared a little earlier for it, but we're trying to, figure that out.
As as someone I think we both respect, Dusty Draws says it's gone from zero to crazy so fast that how can you kind of prepare for what it's going to
Can't.
look like in the future? But,
You really
no,
can't.
I totally get that. So when you're thinking a bit more meta about like games and whether or not they're great for crowdfunding or not, like I'd love to kind of just talk a little bit about that because like I think a lot of games that you guys have worked with, and this isn't like I'm not meaning for this like episode to be like an ad for LaunchBoom. I think from a business perspective, I think is quite interesting because you do have some, you have some people who, especially out there, if you're a game designer and you're thinking about like what are my avenues, you could go and work for a company. You could work for like a publisher or something like that. And you could do game design, or you could be an independent game designer and you're pitching your product to other people. You could be a bit more of a hobbyist, like you like making
Mhm.
games, and maybe you want to make you want to get some people together, raise like a grand in order to get that thing made, and then that's it. Or you want to be that kind of a bit of everything. You want to start like either self-publish your own games or start an indie publisher maybe, so as soon as you hit that, as soon as you're one of those types of people, you then start quite quickly having to figure out like, well, what's going to be the strategy, what's going to be the distribution strategy, what's the brand going to be like, how are we going to be thinking about ourselves, as a games company. And I definitely want to ask you about your own personal journey with that, with Ibis T in a second. When you're looking at games, I'm sure that when you're getting people asking or querying about LaunchBoom, things go through your head, and I would imagine, and maybe tell me if I'm wrong, you guys go through this little thing. Like, what kind of person are you? Are you doing this as a business? Do you think that you have made the greatest thing since sliced bread, and you literally just need to turn the campaign on, and people are going to find it, and then you're going to build it. They'll come. How important is brand? in terms of thinking about what it is that you're building from a business perspective versus just making a good game?
Great question. There's a lot. I think there's a
Yeah,
lot to unpack
I
there.
I asked you like a
Um
half-hour question, so you can take
Yeah, okay, let me see if I can break it down a little bit. So it's like, okay, what kind of creator are you and what's the process? Like I'm assuming there's like a question of like what's my approach for doing like launching a game or something like that as well. In terms of like there is like the hobbyist who makes games. I have a lot of friends like that too, especially in the game design, like game testing group. I mean, like you made like 10 games. Have you thought about
You don't
launching
wanna
any of them?
publish them? Yeah. No, no, I'm good. And you're like,
Like
"What? What's
I just
wrong?"
you're like, "I just like making them." I'm like, "But this one's a really good one. You should, like, at least like, try to pitch it to a
Pitch it. Yeah,
publisher and
exactly.
get it out there."
Oh, pitching. I don't like pitching. No, I don't like that. Like, you talked with them and anyway.
Yeah, and then there is, the self-publishing route, and I mean, and then there are people that are like, "Okay, I wanna really make a business out of this," and then there are people that are like, "I have this great idea. I think it's gonna be great, and then I wanna make money off of it and all this stuff." Um, if you are planning to launch a game, I would highly recommend looking at it as a business instead of a passion project. And I know this is a hard pill to swallow if it is a passion project. This is a project like Hover is a passion project. Like it is very much a passion project. I've tried to design other games in the past, and every single one of them was a passion project that I dived way too deep into a rabbit hole and then came out and went like, I shouldn't have spent that much time on that rabbit hole because it's going nowhere. Um, and so that has happened to me. I understand that. But if you don't approach it as a business, then you will go in when you may be in for a real, like, what's the word? There might be a lot of pain involved. You'll be in for
Yeah, bit of a shock. If you have hopes that this thing's gonna be big and it's gonna make money, but you don't face up to the fact that, well, then what it is that you're doing is a thing that's going to make money, so what kinds of other things make money?
Mhm,
That's where I see the disconnect, quite a bit, with a certain type of creator. They have a huge sense of pride. It's a bit of the ugly baby thing. It's like, "My baby is going to be," you know, you used to say president, but, I don't know, some very important person. Um, "My baby's gonna be amazing, but I'm gonna keep it hidden for a while for a while until I think it's ready, until it's, like, 45 years old and, all ready to go, and then first thing out." And, so, yeah, I totally get what you mean, by that. Just out of interest, though, you just said you've kinda gone down rabbit holes, and then you're like, "I shouldn't spend that much time." Do you always think when you're thinking about games, are you always thinking about it from a business side? Or are you ever thinking about it of just like, let me just, like, play around with a game idea?"
it's both. It's both. I probably have like 5 games, maybe 6 or 7 that I've worked on and kind of played around with, either in my head or actually, like, I have a box, I have stuff written out, and then I have my wife make a small prototype because she's the handy one with knives and cutting stuff and, like, drawing and everything. I've had several games that I've, like, kind of worked on simultaneously. Some of these games I created because I just, like, had an idea and wanted to make something, and I'm like, "Cool, bop, 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 bop. Let's see if this works." Um, and then other games, I'm like, "Oh, this would sell really well, I think." And now we'll go into that. And then the ones that I really like, those ones, I'm like, like I'm not like if the fire isn't there, the fire isn't there. But I think the ones where like, when it comes down to ideation, I think it really for me, it starts with, like, either wanting to play with a cool game mechanic. I was like, "Oh, this would be a fun mechanic to play with," or a lot of times it's like a theme, like, "Oh, I really wanna make a game with this theme." Sometimes I play a game and I'm like, "Oh, I wish it was like this." And then I start thinking about it, and I was like, "Well, let's do this and see this," and I was like, "Well, that would capture the feeling that I wanted from this game, the way that it was sold to me." I was like, "Oh, I really wanted this feeling of exploration. I'm not really getting it from there. Is there another game like that?" And I was like, "Well, what if I just made a game that kinda captured that feeling instead and was sold in the same way?" But then when it comes down to leaning deeper into that rabbit hole, because the first time I did this, I leaned deep into a rabbit hole, and then after that, one, the game didn't work very well. My brother broke it very deeply, and I'm like, "I'm shelving this for life." And then two, it wasn't very marketable, I don't think. And those are, like, 2 things to consider, and they're 2 separate things. Does the gameplay work? And then the other thing is this gonna be marketable? And if I would say if both of those don't really align, it gets really difficult to launch that game to make it into something more than a hobby project.
Yeah, and crosses a line where you're like, I can't see any more fun being derived from this because I don't see a future in it. Versus it was fun until this point, but like I don't see a way for this to be, you know, like to turn into something that could make money. So therefore, like I what's my point of in terms of trying more? Is that fair or
I think there's an aspect of like, I'm in a stage where I'm about to have another kid. I'm already running one business. I'm trying to start another one. I'm pretty involved in my church as well. I've actually like pulled back a lot over there, and like I do a lot of different things. And I've noticed that for every single thing that I say yes to, it's saying no to something else. And I do like making games, and I like going and having other people play it and test it out and try it out. But I'm realizing that if I spend so much time here, that's taking away time from spending time with my family. That's taking away time from another game that potentially could actually have make a massive difference in my life and provide another source of revenue, or another source of like has more potential to actually do something, have impact. It's also taking away time from actually playing other games. There's a lot of games out
so
there,
do you
and
play a lot of games?
I go to a weekly game night with some friends, and it's
Oh,
a lot of
nice.
fun. It's getting increasingly more heavy, so I appreciate that. Like, we just played Arc Nova, and we also just played Gloomhaven. Last night I just played my first session at Gloomhaven finally. And that was a lot of fun. But we're like, okay, like, I'm about to have a kid. I don't think you said last time you played this, it took a year to like, you played it for, like, a year every week? I was like, "That's a lot of commitment." But, like, there's a lot of games to play. I wanna play a lot of them. Time is the main factor here, and if you dive into a rabbit hole that isn't worth diving into, um, that is a choice, and you are free to do that. But I have a lot of things in my life right now where I'd rather spend my time on, as much as I love making cool games, if it's not worthwhile. Like, I've even considered, like, I see potential with this game, and I've considered several times going, like, do I really want to dive into this right now? Because I have more important things like my family that I care about. But that is we started this journey before I realized we're gonna have a second kid. So, uh,
It came first.
we're gonna do both.
So did you start, crowdfunding, like, helping with crowdfunds of games before designing games, or have you always been interested in games, and have you been designing games and then you realized you were working on other projects on the crowdfund, and then you brought it into games because of your interest? How did which came first?
I was definitely playing a lot more games before we actually worked with game clients and before I was designing games. Or, designing games. I haven't launched one yet. I feel like I can't call myself a
You're still
designer yet.
designing games.
Yeah,
Going.
it's still happening. But we'll see. We'll see how people respond. Some people like it. But we'll see. We'll see. Um, yeah, it's my I love playing like middle school is when I got introduced to Catan and Cosmic Encounter, and I loved it. And then wasn't able to touch a lot of other stuff because school banned Magic, school banned Yu-Gi-Oh, school banned Pokemon, school banned everything. Um, no cards. I even made my own. Like me and my friend are like, well, what if we just like got pieces of paper and made our own games and stuff? We were playing that. And school was like, no cards. Took that out. So I was like, we drew those. Um, so that was middle school. I loved that. Going into college is when they came back because people were like, "Oh, have you played this? Have you played this?" And then coming out of college, I had a friend, like my housemate, who backed a lot of Kickstarters. Like he backed a lot of Kickstarters, and so we would have a whole wall, like we in our living room. The entire living room wall was filled floor to ceiling with games, and that was a fun time. Um, that was a really fun time. We were launching a lot of D&T projects at that design and tech projects at that time. As we grew as a company, as an agency, we started to work out like the business numbers on our end, and we had to charge a lot for our do it for you like agency program essentially. Like we would do everything for you. It costs a lot. There's like you got a team of like they didn't see it, but there was like a team of 10 people behind every single project, working full time to make it a reality. And so that costs a lot of money and game clients couldn't afford that. That's the reality is, like, they couldn't afford that full, like, high-end, like, bespoke really truly dialed in system of, like, we will do everything and make sure that we dial it on for you. Um, which is where we learned how to do crowdfunding really well. When we switched to a consulting model or when we started the consulting side of things, that's when we were able to get in some game clients, and then that's when we started to see traction. Um in the process of doing that, I was thinking about other things that I could start at that time, other companies, outside of LaunchBoom, because I was starting to get that itch again. I was like, "I kinda wanna do something on my own again," and games was one of the things that popped up because I really enjoy playing them. I really enjoy games in general, and I knew that games did decently well on Kickstarter, and I'm like, "Well, what's the one thing I know how to do? It's Kickstarter." So that was when I started thinking about games and started designing stuff.
Yeah.
And simultaneously, that's when the consulting program really took off, and we decided
Mm.
to say, "Hey, let's make a program specifically for games because we know that it's more nuanced." I was like, Me. I back them. I know the crowd. I'm in the crowd."
I'm the crowd.
Uh, and so that's when we made the games program. And at that time, that's when actually the idea for Hover came about. So they kind of happened simultaneously at the same time.
Okay, so we've been beating around the bush a little bit. Tell me about Hover. What is it? I see some hummingbirds. It's, you described it as a brutal game of hummingbirds. When I see hummingbirds, the first thing that does not pop into my mind are these are brutal.
Yes.
So so yeah, tell me about it.
Yeah. This is our makeshift box. This is just a piece of like papers, like
Love it.
tape on. You can see like,
Yeah,
yeah, oh,
that's
cool.
it.
Yeah.
It's great.
Our initial box design, hummingbirds. This is an illustration that my wife made based on a real photo. So fun facts about hummingbirds. They may look beautiful, they may look cute, but they are super aggro. They are
Dastardly.
they are extremely aggro creatures. Um, the story goes like this. I am walking around my apartment complex thinking about my other game, the game that I shelved, thinking about that, going like, "Man, what am I gonna do about this?" And then I see there's always hummingbirds in my area because everyone has feeders. These 2 hummingbirds just they, like, fly on my face, they go boom, 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 and you just see them, like, chasing each other, like, trying to stab each other, and I'm like, "That's sick. That was a great game." So I go back home, I go to my whiteboard, and I kinda draw something out, and I was like, "Oh, it could be like a King of the Hill kinda thing, area control kinda thing, because they're attacking each other, and we could do that." And then that just evolved more. The King of the Hill thing did not work. I tested it out, like, that did not work, so the game has changed. But diving into more research, I got a feeder. I was like, let's just take a look and see how this works. Yeah, hummingbirds are super territorial. They're like really aggressive. You see them like one's like, shoot, I'm at the feeder, get some sit, and another one comes in, it's like, what the F are you doing here in my feeder? Get out of here. And then they like aim for their throats and go like, "Meow," and try to stab them and chase them out. They like shout at each other, go like, and, like, it's, like, kinda cute, actually. They're like these tiny little fluff balls. They're, like, this small, and
Yeah,
they're
they're tiny.
so angry. And then another bird comes in just trying to chill, and the hummingbird's like, "What are you doing here?" And, like, "Get out." And then I started reading I bought a book and, several books about hummingbirds, started reading about them, started searching out about this because I just love animals. I've always loved animals. It's, like, my thing. In another life, I'm a zookeeper.
Yeah, nice.
Everyone in
Maybe
the
that's the
launch
next
room
game.
agrees. Yeah, everyone agrees I would be a zookeeper. I will tour you the San Diego Zoo, and I will tell you just as much as the tour guides know, if not more. And I've done that for a few folks at LaunchBoom. We're like, "Hey, come to San Diego. I'll take you to the zoo. It's my favorite place to go." But yeah, learned a lot about hummingbirds. They do aim at each other's throats. There are instances where they have been attacking each other, and both of them stab each other simultaneously, and they both die instantly. They found corpses like that. It's pretty brutal. They also steal from each other's nests, so the females will go and be like,
You're not you you're
"Yeah."
you're really anti hummingbird lobby here.
They're like, they go and they steal it. I think it's hilarious. I think it's awesome because you got these birds that can fly upside down. You can fly back and forth. They hover around. They are very unique birds. They're burning a lot of energy. They need constant energy. And so, of course, they're going to be territorial. And then you add that to the aerial acrobatics of them having aerial fights with each other all around, everywhere, all the time in miniature form. And like, yes. I would watch this all day, every day, and I have been because it's happening right outside my door.
Research.
Yeah, research,
Yeah,
exactly.
research.
So, yeah, I made a game off of that. I'm like, "That would be an awesome game," and on top of that okay, I'm gonna be honest, when I played Wingspan, I was really excited to get Wingspan. I'm like, "I love birds. I love nature games. It's an engine builder. Cool, I love engine builders," and I played it, and I played a few games of it with my family, and, we're like, "Did we just spend an hour not talking with each other?" And we're like, "Yeah." We're like, "Let's
It's a
not do that
pentacle.
again."
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I wanted something where and on top of that, I didn't really learn too much, like, actually learn about the birds. Um, I love learning about cool stuff. I wanted something more engaging, something more immersive, something that actually made me feel like I am the bird. Kelp is a great example of this. I am the shark. I am the octopus. And you actually like see this and you can learn a little bit about the behaviors of some of these animals just by putting yourself in their shoes. And I'm like, there's nothing that does that for the birds, and especially these awesome birds that people think are these nice, gentle creatures when really there's so much more layers behind that beautiful demeanor. So I wanted that contrast. I like the idea people think, oh, hummingbirds, cute, beautiful. And then they read brutal game of hummingbirds. You're like, that doesn't seem
It's jarring.
aligned.
That's
Yeah, you're
a
like,
hook.
"Ooh." And then we're like, "We're gonna make it beautiful, we're gonna make it modern, we're not gonna make it like what we see normal hummingbird art to be," which is usually really focused on, like, beauty and all that stuff, and there's way too many colors, it's like a Kincaid, which, like, my wife and I really do not like Kincaid. The I mean, for people that love Kincaid, all to you.
You're hardcore anti-Kincaid
You're
just as much
great.
as I
I'm just
do.
like, we don't want the light everywhere, we like our contrast, we like a little bit of darkness. And so we wanted something like that, and I designed it. I was like, "Is this gonna be good?" We played it around and, played it with a few people, and everyone's like, "Oh, this is pretty fun." Um,
So, what do you do? You are the hummingbird, I assume?
so you are the hummingbird. Your goal is to get enough energy to build a nest and perform a successful courting call, because that's what
Okay.
hummingbirds do. They do all of this so then they can mate. Um, you can increase your beauty at that along the way, but the catch is other hummingbirds are trying to do this as well, and we don't share. Hummingbirds don't share. So you're gonna be competing with each other, blocking each other, attacking each other potentially if you are that kind of bird. Um, yeah, attacking each other to get the things that you need to make your stuff happen, and occasionally you might even wanna steal from each other because you're like, "That person's getting a little too far ahead. Let's pull them down a little bit." There's, like, area control mechanics, there are take that mechanics involved. People that don't like take that games, probably not for you, but I have my sister-in-law is very not take that, very anti take that, and there are certain birds. So each bird has different asymmetrical powers, so you play them a little
Right.
differently. There are certain birds that are geared towards those players, and she has a lot of fun playing those birds.
Oh, cool.
Because she's like, I'm just gonna sneak around you and just let you guys fight while I focus on my little thing over here, and then she would win." And I'm like, "Ugh." But, yeah, so there the base game is based off of the birds of the US birds. There are 8 main birds, hummingbird species that you would find in the US that are primarily US. There are more if you go to Arizona. Arizona has, like, a bunch of them. They're migrating from Mexico, essentially. But I try my best to get characteristics of each bird and lean into them and be like, okay, so this bird is like the rufous is extremely aggressive. It's known to be the one that is very aggressive.
Yeah.
Let's make that one the aggressive one. The ruby-throated hummingbird is only found on the East Coast and it travels a lot. Like every year it crosses the Gulf of Mexico. So I was like, okay, cool. It flies a lot. It's really agile. So let's do something with that. And then there's like the costas, which is really tiny. It's only found like in splotches in California here, really small, usually gets bullied a lot. You get chases out. So I was like, okay, let's work with that. Let's see
These
how
are all
that
like
works out.
personas. Yeah, I can
Exactly.
see
So
how
I
they
like develop
develop in.
personas to as much as my ability to make it match what the species kind of does. Now, there's more research on some species than others, I realized. So I was like, oh, wow, there's like pages and pages on the rufous and the ruby, and there's like nothing on like the black chinned or like the broad tailed or something like that. So it gets a little funky with that. But for the most part, try to use my knowledge that I've taken from these people that have done this research and apply it to the game. And so you can lean into different strategies there. There are cards that you can buy that you can play and chain up. So there's a little bit of that. It is a relatively quick game. There's like some bluff, like the attack mechanic has to do more with like bluffing and stuff like that. And you're not really killing each other. You're not taking hit points. You're just pushing each other around. And so
Competing. Yeah.
yeah, you're
Yeah.
competing for stuff. It's really a
Yeah.
race game, and so the attacks can hinder one and give you a boon, but you don't have to attack at all to win the game. There are plenty of people that have won the game without it. So that is it's a little, like, thing. I wanted to keep it simple. Um, I wanted to make it fast to learn, so there's you do 2 actions per turn, and there's only a the actions are you can move, you could do an action that's defined by the area that you're in, or you can attack. And so I can teach a game relatively quickly, like 6 minutes-ish, and you play for 30 to 45. 2 to 4, I'm working on a solo version right now. I've tested it for over, like, almost 2 years now. It's gone through a lot of iterations with a lot of different people.
So you and maybe also with your other games, do you like thinking about the theme, doing a lot of research into that theme, and then figuring out mechanics that work? Like, are you theme first? Are you mechanics first? I mean, you talked earlier about trying around with different mechanics. Is it a blend? Is it something else?
Um, I would say my natural inclination is towards theme first. I have a lot of eclectic interests. Like, I like this, I like this. There's a time when I was really into, like, medieval warfare for some reason, and I was like, "Oh, yeah, the
For
spear
some
has this
reason. Yeah.
advantage, but then you put the shield over here with this." It's like, yeah, I'm like,
Yeah.
"Why am I this is not relevant to me." I was like, the quarter staff can actually defeat, like a sword. Even have 2 swords here because of the breach that it has, and it's like, okay, too much. Yeah, so generally because of all the things I'm so interested in, I am theme first. But now as I'm playing more games, I start to look at some of these mechanics. I was like, that is a very interesting mechanic. And I think if I blended it with this, that could be interesting too. So I'm starting to dabble into mechanic first, but I'm realizing that makes it difficult for marketability and immersion. Like IVST is an acronym. The first word for that, the first one, the I is for immersion. So like that's something that me and my wife just enjoy those games a little bit more because we like the gameplay, we like the strategy. I like the gameplay, I like the strategy. But I also like feeling like I'm going into that world a little bit more. Um, if I'm thinking too much about if I'm thinking too much about strategy, it's like, "Oh god, I could just play an abstract game at this rate." But there's like an aspect of being a little bit lost into that world, diving a little bit into that makes me a little bit more addicted to it. And I prefer that. So that plus my inclination to just learn random stuff makes me more theme forward. I have yet to do something where it's mechanics first, but it is something that I played around with here and there, and I'm open to it.
And so is Hover, you say you've been playtesting it for 2 years. Is that because it's gone through a lot of different iterations? Like, how do you approach the whole let me build and then let me bring in playtesters? Like, how do you approach feedback?
Yeah, that's a great question. This is the journey that I took. I don't know if it's the journey everyone else takes. I have the idea. I like prototype it out, and learning from my first thing that I tried to build out, it's probably better to get someone else to play the game as fast as you possibly can. Because they'll see things that you don't see, like my brother who saw this one little thing about my previous game that he's like, yeah, here is 150 points when your average has been 30s thus far. And so good to put it out. So with Hover, it was cool. Get a piece of paper, write it out, get the stuff, get the base mechanics to see if that is fun enough. Then see if we want to add stuff in to create some more tension or create more drama here, or just add a little bit more strategy. Um, and what I ended up doing, and then from there, building out more like a larger prototype, inviting friends over to play, be like, hey, you want to try a new game out? I did get involved with the local playtesting group. So there's like a San Diego playtesting group that meets at Game Empire every third Saturday. Join us if you're here. But yeah, meets at a friendly local game store. We just playtest each other's games. So I brought it over there, got some stuff got some feedback there. Um, when I started to receive feedback, I was thinking I had to really think about who my super fan was. Who is it that I'm making this for? Who is the target audience for this game? Because it's not going to appeal to everyone. If it does, it's not a good game, to be honest. That's true for pretty much everything. If it appeals to everyone, it doesn't appeal to anyone. So I knew that I knew what I wanted to be. It's a hummingbird game. I wanted it to be brutal, so there had to be some. I wanted to have high player interaction. I wanted to be immersive. I wanted to represent the birds accurately. And so when people came back and they're like, "I hate this attacking aspect. I hate this. Like you just like I hate them stealing from my nest. Like, oh gosh, I had this whole plan. It's ruined now." I was like, "Well, maybe this game is not for you."
Or do you hate it in a good way? You know, some people, if like, I hated that, it made me so mad, now I need to play it again because I wanna try something different, you know?
Yeah. And then there are a lot of people that are like, "I hate it so much, it made me so mad, I don't like games
Yeah.
like that." And they told it
Yeah.
to my
Yeah.
face, which I really
Exactly.
appreciate because develops thick skin if people really telling you that they hate your game or hate you or whatever. Like, it's like, cool, awesome. Thank you. Because I've also noticed recently that there are a lot of people that will tell me, "Oh, I love it," but then they don't actually love it. There's a lot of those. They're just trying to be nice to me, and I'm like, I don't need you to be nice. I need you to be honest.
Yeah. But sometimes people don't know how to be honest, like,
Exactly.
they're like, do you know I don't know if you're familiar with the mom test of, the book, but it's about, like, removing bias from customer research interviews and stuff, and it's about, if you show your mom, you know, "Hey, do you think this is great?" Most likely she's gonna say, "Yeah, it's great." And, "Would you buy it?" "Yeah, I'd buy it." "Great." 100%, would buy it, and, taking bias out of that. But yeah, you're right. Sometimes people giving feedback, they don't know how to give feedback, both positive and negative.
Yeah, one thing that I learned is to have a list of like questions that you've tested out that really dig in a little deeper. Um, One of them is like, what do you love about the game? And then what do you not like so much? Or what do you think can be improved? And so that starts them off to be like, oh yeah, I like this, I like this. And then it goes into, but I didn't really like this. Or sometimes they'll be like, I don't really like, it was all right. Like it was good. And then you can sort of see from that reaction, you're like, you kind of have to read a little bit in between the lines. You're like, okay, they weren't really into it. Then you have the other side, we're like, when are you launching this? Like, can I sign up right now? Like, that's like a good reaction. Um, so yeah, and then sometimes I just had to sit people that like they would give me that feedback, and I had to sit like I've had friends, I just sit them down. I was like, would you back this? And there's a lot, some of that I'd be like, no, it's not my kind of game, and everyone's like, yeah, I would. And then I also think, like, I asked the question, "Would you play this again?" And then, judging from that answer, like, from a scale from 1 to 10, what would you put as, like, "Would you play this again?" You're looking for a high number. You want the extremes. Um,
I like to ask how much would how much would this cost? Not how much would you pay for it,
Mm.
but like how much should this game be? And then knowing like if they're a hardcore board gamer, like they might answer a specific way, and if they aren't, they might not answer. And then the other one that I like to ask is about like who is this game for? And so they
Mm.
might then
Mhm.
describe themselves or they might not. But if you're like, how
That's a
much is
good
this
one.
and who is it for? Then because then even if they're not they have no idea, they could like, speculate, well, maybe someone who likes jewelry or whatever.
Exactly,
So
yeah.
yeah.
And then for
Cool.
me, I think the biggest part with all of this was I would know, like, just from my experience from Launch Room, it was like, in the end, none of this feedback about desirability of the game is gonna be relevant until, like, I get real feedback from real people of actually that are completely anonymous across millions of people and be like, "Here, I want this," or "Actually, no." So then that's the true test, and honestly, I'm breaking my own rules, like, for, like, launching a game. Usually, I would be like, "Hey, just get something out, get a prototype out, run a few ads, see if there's traction before you wanna dive deeper into this," because, again, saying yes to something, saying no to something. Um, but again, passion project, it's hard not to do that.
No, 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 no. But also sometimes you don't know, and you working that out is you then meeting new potential personas, and then you informing some ads that you want to run. I certainly don't I don't, take that rule very well, all mostly because 'cause I'm not an artist like your wife is, so I can't just churn out ads, so there's has to be a certain degree of, like, viability or at least perceived viability, like, I have one game that is done, but it would never work on Kickstarter, it's too small. It's too small, and so I know that it's gonna be there, and at some point, maybe I'll be able to fund a whole bunch of it to be printed, and then it'll be a direct to Amazon or something that as part of my catalog for the stores to be able to see. But it's just like, okay, that's it. I'm not gonna spend any money on art yet. I'm gonna do anything, but it's there ready to go, right? Speaking of that, your wife is of course your partner, but you're also your partner in this. And what's that like? Like my wife works with me as well on games. She's a lot more analytical than I am. So on ads and stuff like that, and looking at numbers and things like that, that's what she's kind of really good at, and also just holding me to task in terms of like what are we doing what are we doing here, but you are like this is a creative relationship here. What is that like?
Difficult. Yeah, it's yeah, one word. Oh, man, yeah, therapy is helpful. Therapy is recommended for business and for marriage. Yeah, we learn a lot about each other, we learn a lot about how to communicate, we learn a lot about how we communicate, and we are very different in our communication styles. I learned that I am not direct. I thought I was. I am not direct. I beat around the bush, I read in between the lines, and I realized that stemmed from my culture. Like, my we're both Chinese. China is big place. We're like our parents both come from China. We were both raised in the States. But very different cultures. I come from a Cantonese culture, and Cantonese people are very social, very like if there was a European equivalent, think like Greek or Italian, maybe, where there's a lot of social nuance. Um, her parents, like her mom comes from Beijing. Beijing is very analytical, very scientific, very honestly, very Western. Straight to the point. Like her birds and bees talk was very, very scientific. It's also because both her parents are PhDs. Or actually both of them are doctors. Her mom gave up her PhD to have Shauna. Yeah, but we don't need to dive into that. But like different ways, she is like blunt, like swing a bat blunt, and also sharp. She's very witty, very sharp with her words. I am like, "Ooh," it's very interesting. That caused a lot of problems when it comes down to running a business together. It comes into a lot of problems when it comes to art direction and what we want to do with the arts. Along with that, sh she was a fabricator, a artist fabricator. So a fabricator is someone who makes things for artists. Welcome to the art world where artists are all about the ideas and they hire people to make stuff for them, very much like a business. And so she was the people making the stuff. That was a long time ago. She has since been a nurse. And so now I'm pulling her back into this world, and she's used to someone telling her what they want. And my previous role at Launchroom was creative director. And she's like, direct me creatively. And I'm like, ugh, I what we need is actually an art director, which we learned very quickly. And I had thought I was like, you're the artist. I have other things I want to think about and worry about. Can you do this? But I didn't communicate that well enough with her. So there's a lot of things.
This stuff fascinating because like it's I mean, on one hand, it's very hard, and I'm certainly learning this, working with artists and actually understanding the words that you are saying and want to say, and the fact that they have meaning. I've been struggling because I cannot make myself very well understood. To which my lovely wife is very happy to inform me that I am not making myself very clear. But and the artists that we work with are great. Because they are also very much like, you're not making very much sense. And so, I'll say there's something, I don't know what's wrong with it, but like there's something, maybe it's too vivid. I feel like it's too vivid, and they're like, vivid's the wrong word. It's not vivid. We're not talking about vivid. There's nothing vivid about this. So yeah, I totally get that, and then also balancing it out with she's your wife, she's your partner, so like, and you add into that the feedback and different styles. I have to say, like, when you said that, when I thought, you must like, man, this is probably really healthy. Like, this is, yeah, it must be challenging, but also it must be really interesting. A really, really interesting way to learn about each other's style, because you both have this mission of like, yeah, but we got to get through this thing. And the
Mhm.
way that we're going to get through it's not that we lack skills, it's just communication. So like, that's going to be, that's going to be great in terms of to learn. So anyway,
100%, 100%. Yeah, that was like I mean, this has helped our marriage. It's helped us
yeah,
run the family better.
yeah.
We have a project management, we have a Kanban board for our family, which is extremely helpful. Like, I highly recommend it if you have kids and you're trying to run something, a Kanban board is amazing. Yeah, and because we have so many like, there's, like, social obligations, there's, like, house things that we gotta take care of, like, it's great for that. We wouldn't have come up with that if we weren't doing this. I really don't think we would've, have because there's just so much that we have to do, and we're like, well I was like, "Let's bring in a project management tool. Let's, like, actually let's run this like a business." And running a family like a business sounds really bad, like, it's like, oh like business." But, like, running it in a way where like, running like a project manager, you know? Like, you're trying to get some stuff done, and some of that stuff can be, like, emotional, like can be romantic, can be personal stuff. It's like the goal doesn't have to be profits. It's not about that. Like you're just trying to achieve certain goals and trying to get there. And sometimes the goal is just spend more time. And you're like, okay, cool. Let's block that out. Let's plan that out. Let's set that as an intention and then try to find a way to get there. Um, and like that may form like lifelong habits too, and that helps out. So, yeah, it's not for everyone running a business like, starting a business with your partner, but for us, it's been both painful, but that pain has bore a lot of really good fruits.
Yeah, a lot of learning. Well, that's awesome. Victor, thank you so much for taking so much time to kind of chat with me, today, and then for sharing a little bit more about Hover. Do you have a date when you're soft circling, like when you want, like, is this a relatively soon thing, or is it still a little bit in the future?
We're hoping 2025 launch, we're
Oh,
getting
great.
close. Yeah, we're really hoping for
Fantastic.
that. The thing with launches, and you know, because you got through a program,
You launch when
um
you're ready.
you launch when you're ready, you don't set a date, you see how the market responds, and then you respond to that. You prepare for that, of course, you'd wanna have things lined up so you're ready to go when you need to go, but you don't wanna just set, like, a date because you
Sure,
set a
sure.
date. You want to get the response back. And the reality is we haven't started ads yet.
Yeah,
And because I
cool.
haven't started ads yet, there is a possibility that I might not even launch in 2025, given that it's April and I'm not, I'm like maybe a month away from starting ads at this point.
Mhm, mhm.
And so that puts me right at that precipice of like, if I delay this any further, then I might not be able to launch in 2025. Um, like if I want to run this correctly, like I could potentially, but if I want everything to line up, then it might not work out. That plus the tariffs is kind of putting a little bit of a hamper to things, and I just don't know what a second child is going to do to my
Yes,
life
yeah.
in terms of speed
2
and looking
hands,
to
2
move.
kids.
Yeah,
There
exactly.
there you go. No problem. Well,
Yeah, yeah.
Victor, thanks so much again. I can't wait to see at least maybe to see more art or more information about Hover. Folks can check out information about Victor's publishing kind of company at ibis.tea, like the kind that you drink. And then obviously LaunchBoom is everywhere, at LaunchBoom on Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn, at launchboom_official on YouTube, launchboom.com. They have a podcast, Masters of Crowdfunding. They have a book called Crowdfunded on Amazon. Victor's on LinkedIn at Victor Shiu as well. And all of that information and hopefully more. And whenever Hover goes out, we'll be sure to add that too in the description below. But Victor, thanks so much for giving so much of your time today.
Thanks so much, Gelb. It was a pleasure.